Hello, it's Derrick here, introducing you to this week's episode with none other than Tim Sweeney. If you do not know Tim Sweeney, you've heard either a mix of his, a DJ set, or a radio show brought to you by his now almost 25-year-old Beats in Space, a very, very storied institutional radio show DJ mix series that I've been listening to for a long time. And it was an honor to have the chance to interview him from the Apple Music studios. And I was really excited to speak to him because someone that has frequented the halls of a radio station covering dance music in such a prolific way for so long must have so much experience, so many stories to tell about what it's like to be at the forefront of documenting dance music as it evolves. And he's had absolutely everyone that you can imagine of note on Beats in Space at one point or another. I just wanted to add that he mentions DFA a few times. And if you don't know what DFA is, it's DFA Records, an independent record label that was started in 2001 by Mo Wax, co-founder Tim Goldsworthy, as well as James Murphy from LCD Sound System and manager Jonathan Gulkin. So important that you know that because he mentions it a few times, but I hope you enjoy it. It was such an honor to be able to speak to Tim Sweeney. Enjoy. It's Derrick Gee Speaks Volumes, and get ready because we have a very, very, very exciting guest. I'm very excited to introduce to you one of the most important people in music, I think. I know that's a big thing to say, but we'll get into why. He's a broadcaster, he's a DJ, he's a curator. He is such a huge contributor to the celebration of music. He is Tim Sweeney. Hello. How are you?
Derrick, that was a huge intro right there. Thank you very much for that. I'm honored, and thank you for having me on your show.
It's my pleasure. And if people don't know Tim Sweeney, then we should definitely tell them who you are. From my side, I would love for you to introduce everything about what you do. By the way, we can see behind you, we have the glowing fruit icon, the apple. You're coming from before we get into your full biography, where are you coming to us from?
From New York, here at the Apple Music studio in New York City.
Has it been a day? How often do you record your show? It's weekly, right?
It is weekly still, but I'm here kind of all the time doing different things, different projects.
I tend to wonder that. You do your show and then, does he bump around the office or is he, just drop in? But it seems like you got a lot
Derrick,
going on.
I like to work hard, man. That's what I do. So
I'm saying you don't.
Yeah. No, but there's a lot of different parts to it, a lot of moving parts to it. And I'm recording actually a lot of shows, each week. It could be that I'm recording a couple different shows or doing an interview or doing my DJ mix or, there's different things that I could be doing. There's really always something that can be done, to improve things.
So the way that I like to treat this show is that there's a theme, and we've discussed on email this kind of theme, and I've been really hell-bent on the idea of whether you agree with it or not, like cultural institutions and yourself being part of that. And what you've done has come from college radio to be something that's now gone on for how many years now? Is it your radio show?
I started in 1999. So
yeah, wow. So we're getting up to 25 years, like next year, I guess, right?
Coming up on
insane. I've been doing radio for 10, 11, so I can't imagine all the music that's in your head. But the topic that we're exploring is that kind of that longevity of radio and institutions through doing something for a long time and celebrating music. So as an introduction, I'll do a little one and then I'd love to hear more. But basically, Tim Sweeney, now hosting a show on Apple Music, has been doing the much loved I don't know how you describe it, dance music show, electronic music show, house music show for 25 years, whether it's on WNYU or on Apple Music. And I think if you're a fan of music, especially dance music, you know Beats in Space because you've listened to it. It's just a fact. In your life, you have listened to either Tim or one of his guests. And why I was so excited to speak to Tim is because of doing it for so long. You're going to see some things. You're going to experience some things. You're going to observe so much about what's going on in a particular area of culture. And yeah, tell us more about how you talk about Beats in Space to people.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I started in 1999, and that was when I was a freshman at NYU. And I actually, you know, I started on WNYU. I actually played on the radio, kind of 2 years before that. I came like in high school. I came up and played on the radio at WNYU twice, and I was like, "This, I want to go here. This is what I want to do. Like, how can I make this happen?" Because yeah, in high school, that's kind of. I mean, it was really like eighth grade is when I got like hooked on DJing, and then by like high school, um, I started playing like on a couple different radio shows, and it was college radio things. Like one, my brother had a college radio show, and then I played like I was in Baltimore at the time, and I played on the University of Maryland, and it just it clicked with me because it was similar to just practice. I would practice all the time at home, and so this was kind of like a similar thing, um, where you're just kind of by yourself and but you still think of, hey, there's a crowd out there, like that's part of it, always like thinking about the crowd, but at the same time the radio experience is different than the club experience.
How do you feel like college radio is it hasn't gone away. It's still very important. Do you think it was like is an important thing to provide to students or as an avenue?
For sure. This especially in New York, there aren't really that many opportunities on the radio to play different music, like non-mainstream music. There aren't a lot of opportunities for that. And so, college radio provides that outlet. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, going that route was the only way I saw it. Like I couldn't see this direction where I'm going to Hot 97 or something like that, right away. Because knowing what they weren't playing it, the music that I was playing. I was getting these tapes from London from like pirate radio shows. So I was really interested in pirate radio, and like, oh, I found a pirate radio station here in New York and played on that. And I was like, okay, what can I do that's like that, but maybe like a step more than that? Because the pirate radio here in New York compared to London, pirate radio in New York was like, a few block radius, where I think the London ones ended up being a lot bigger productions.
Yeah, wow. And is that how Beats in Space was devised? Kind of to do, as you said, taking something a bit further. You said, was it always, yourself and then a guest as
No,
the theme?
the start of it was just me all the time. The start of it was like a 3-hour radio show. I played from 1 to 4 a.m. on,
Perfect.
I think, like Tuesday nights, Wednesday mornings. And I did that for a while, and that was on the AM radio side. Like they have two stations, WNYU. It's a little weird because they only have the FM station Monday to Friday, 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. And then all the other times it switches to this AM radio, which really didn't go anywhere. Like it only went broadcast to the dorms. And that's why I started a website for Beats in Space because I wanted more listeners, and I wanted more than just the dormitories. And like, I had a space, I had a studio, and I can record, but I didn't have the listeners. So at that time, it was before MP3s. If you can believe there was a time before MP3s. Yeah, I know. So I actually would record. I mean, the first ones I recorded to cassette tape, and then I would record it back into my computer in real time, and I would encode it as real audio files. That was the thing that was used, before MP3s. It was these real audio files. I don't know what the quality of that would be nowadays, but bad. But I could upload the whole radio show, and that's what I did at the start, to get more listeners, kind of worldwide, because I was on like a lot of like email lists, mailing lists at a time, like, you know, the rave list, or the, like those kind of, IDM mailing list and that kind of thing. And so I would write to people, hey, check this out. This is a radio show I did. You might like this. So I built the website, and I just started doing the radio shows. And then I started reaching out to people to be guests on the show. And I think the guest thing, that kind of snowballed, because, you have one guest, and then you can get another one that's maybe connected, and then you just go from there.
Yeah,
So
wow. It no joke, maybe because I'm a too emotional of a person, I've got some tingles, like some goosebumps a little bit, because I think what made me smile about that was that you always knew that this was bigger than, there's an audience could be bigger than, the dormitories, like you said, and that you could see that there'd be a world of people that'd be into this. So, like, not everyone starts a website, not everyone goes to the effort to record your show, to upload it, to share it, to get it out there. And I do think that Beats in Space, my connection with it, I never listened to it live. It's always been, Beats in Space has always just been. And I'm sure it's been that almost since the beginning, which is why I find that really cool. That you must have known somewhere that, like, this is, I want people to hear this, and I don't want it to be like a local thing.
yes, I mean, it's not like um, I didn't have a vision of it being, a huge deal or anything. It was kind of just, I want more listeners than, I don't think anyone at the NYU dorms cared at all. Like, I wanted to find some people who actually were into it, and for me, that meant, a lot of the music I was playing was in Europe. So I need people in Europe listening to it. I need to record this, and then I need to get it out there to more people. And that's, I think that's always been the case, that I'm trying to find more listeners, and more people that would be interested in what I'm trying to do here.
You reminded me of when I was on community radio. They would have a listen back for a week on the website, and I would find the source code for it, and then get that audio recording and rip that, and then put that on my own
Yeah.
Mixcloud page. So it's like, yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, I put so much work into this, and I was on the graveyard shift, which I think is a great shift, and then putting that somewhere, and then it kind of lives another life, which it does. And
One, yes, everyone has to do the graveyard shift.
has
That's for sure. Everyone has to experience that. But two is, like, I think that is something that I found, is that I also really like documenting things. I like saving things. I am a record collector, right? And I'm a book collector, and like, I like collecting things, unfortunately. And I'm the same way with the radio shows. Like, I have every radio show that I've done. I
incredible.
have a recording of it. It's cassette tape, it's DAT tape, it's um CDR, it's the mini disc, and then it's, files on the computer. But I have everything. And, like in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is my history. This is me, like when I'm dead, this is the only way anyone's gonna, remember me. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of like, well, there's so much of it. No one's actually, like I'm more realistic. Like no one's gonna really care. But, for me, it's just like I need it. Like maybe one of those moments is the moment, and I want to go back to it. I don't actually usually go back to any of the radio shows. I don't go back and listen to them because I'm always going forward, Like I remember things from the past, but I am always moving forward with them.
Hell yeah. Like that's so important with radio, and you kind of have to. You have to stay relevant. You have to. You're only as good as your last show, and you have to make sure that next show is good. And what point was there a point where you felt like? Because I don't know for myself when I came across Beats in Space, was there a moment where you felt like, oh shit, like this is something special. This is something that people care about. This is something, whether you thought influential or you thought, okay, this is not just me in a booth doing something.
Yeah, there was that. There was actually that moment for me, and it. Well, I can't remember the year now, but I could look it up. But it was I was at DFA, so it's gonna be like, it was probably around like 2003 or something like that. Um, and I was working at DFA when I wasn't at the radio station, and they were I had this um recording, I would get all the new DFA stuff before anyone else, and I would play it on the radio show. That was the fun, thing to do. And I had this Delia and Gavin Releve track with the Carl Craig remix, and I remember playing that, and they told me at DFA, like, you can play this, but just don't let anyone, like, you have to talk over it. And so I remember I talked to her. I don't know what I said on it. I should go back and listen to that to see what I was saying while talking over it. But what I remember was, I mean, that track is so good. Like one of my favorites to play out at a club. Um, but I remember there was like a huge response to that because everyone wanted that remix because it was so good. And then there was a big response because I was talking over it, so it was annoying. I was annoying. Yeah, that's hasn't changed, I guess. But that's when I remember like the response to that, where it was like so many people, asking about it and writing about it and being like, have you heard that one? Then then I saw like that I had an actual, I could reach more people. I could like get a message out there, and that did. I'm not saying something switched in me either, because I never changed the way I did the radio show when I like saw that happening. It was just like, that's okay, this is fun, you know?
Doing it for as long as you have, almost 25 years, thereabouts, what keeps you going to, because I think about it a lot. I talk to a lot of people about it, especially my audience, about like kind of getting tired of music and kind of getting stuck in the notion that the things that were good before aren't as good now. And you have to keep moving. What makes you excited? Like you said, a present for me, a present for the audience. Like, why have you, what has kept that fire going for you?
Because it's fun to find music and it's fun to hear like what other people are playing, and it's like I'm excited. Those DJs, I'm booking all these DJs, and I want to hear what they play. I want to hear what they bring, and uh, I'm not into everything, but I still enjoy seeing people that are also enthusiastic about it, and uh, like that inspires me. Like when I see someone who younger and who like really wants to like do a good job, and especially when they like put in work on doing the radio show mix, that inspires me too, because I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. Because every week I want, I want to put a lot of work into the music that I'm playing, because I have this opportunity to show off the great music that there is out there, and I want to show off the best music that I can. And I think if I ever get you know if I ever get kind of bored, or it's not bored, but like if I ever get down about things, or like or frustrated or something, I turn to music to get out of that funk, right? And it's like that's where I dig deeper, or it's either I dig deeper or I go back to some classics that make me feel better, right? And I put that into the radio show. So for me, each week it's kind of like it's documenting, my emotions, my state, and I can kind of like it's just not it's not boring for me to go and find music and play it for people. It's exciting to see what's next and what we can kind of where we can go with it.
Yeah, you like being like, obviously you DJ, you're a tastemaker, you're also a conduit, like you said, for the things that you find really cool, or like even a presenter of these things. And the instinct for me to reach out to you, we followed each other for a little bit, not that long, but then that RP Boo mix and clip of him doing like footwork and DJing, and like that was incredible. And I watched that, right? And I shared it, and we talked about it for a little bit, but I was like, I'm seeing something so special, whether people know it or not, which is like a microcosm of a person that was one of the founders of a genre, doing something, celebrating it, enjoying it, acting it out, like not acting it out, like, performing it out in front of you. And I'm like, I'm seeing so many things happening in this one short clip. I got to talk to Tim. Like, you must see that stuff all the time, like where it's just like, I'm seeing something happen that's like part of a much larger thing.
Well, Derrick, I'm glad you liked that one. And because that was special. And I don't think that happens all the time, like you can't ever get, I mean, that was what was special for me too, is like, yeah, you're like that, this moment I'm documenting, this guy, the founder of Footwork here. And, like I'm getting the story there, and you're seeing him DJ, and you're seeing him dancing, and you're seeing his enthusiasm for it. And, that inspires me. That pushes me too. Cause he just, he only 10 years ago left his day job to do this full time. And, you know, like that, those kind of stories, it's amazing. And it's fun. And like, yeah, that keeps me going. It's like, I want to find that again,
Yeah.
that was great.
So cool. So let's talk about guests. Let's talk about, so to give people a bit of context, like you have had pretty much any important DJ at some point in their career on Beats in Space. You can look it up. They've been there. They've been on there. Whether you found them when they've just started DJing, whether they're like, okay, I have to do my Beats in Space because I'm now established and he's asked me and now I've got to do it. It's just a fact, which is wild to me. And it's a catalog. And like, what I want to know everything about that, like how you find them, what the criteria is, what, like, sure, you have lots of people that maybe don't blow up, but then you have had everyone. How does that work? How do you think about it? Where do you look? How do you discover? Tell me all about it.
Yeah, it is a good question. I guess, because I'm wondering if it kind of has changed at all over the years. Because now I would say the only difference now is that, you know, I talk to them a lot more. Like there's the interview part, and that's become a bigger part of the show now. So it is something in the back of my mind a bit more of, okay, what are we gonna talk about? So with that, I do like someone who has like a album happening around then. I mean, that is always the easier way to get someone on the radio show is they have an album that they're promoting or a record release that they're promoting. If they're in promoting mode, that's how you can easily get someone that you want. When I started, it was also just like it's looking at who was in New York, who was playing in New York, and getting in touch with them and just, asking them to come on the radio show. And so I think who I was getting in touch with it's the artists that I was playing on the show or artists I've heard about. Now a lot of times, yeah, there are artists that I've heard about and that I want to see DJ. Maybe I haven't gone out to see them play, and so I'm like, you know what, gonna have them here and check them out. Like what is it that everyone's talking about? I want to see this. I want to hear what they're playing, and I want to check it out. So yeah, the process for me is, it's a lot of different ways that I would say I get someone on the radio show because I could be DJing out and I could hear someone play and be like, hey, that was amazing. Please, like, you got to come on the radio show. I can hear a record that I really like. And I was like, I need to talk to this person. I need to hear this person DJ. I want to hear more music for them, and I'll get in touch with them. Um, or, yeah, or it's like I see someone on a lineup and I'm like, hey, you're in New York. Come on down, if you can.
You've seen, I'm guessing at this point, thousands of DJ mixes. What makes a great mix?
There are definitely different answers there for you, but for me, what I love to see in a mix is when someone's like thought about it, and I love a story in a mix. I think I mean I love a story in general, right? When you do an interview, you want a story, and I think when you have someone on the radio show for a DJ mix, you you want a story with that mix because that's kind of what lasts longer and that's what makes it more interesting, right? So, um, for me, if someone is telling a story there, that's fun and they've thought about it. Like that hour-long mix is more than just a mix of music. So, and that has to do. I mean, that's digging and finding something someone hasn't heard, or it's having tracks uh, also that maybe you've produced that no one else has, or doing some edits, things like that. Those are all really fun to have in the mix. At the end of the day, it's also just like, is this fun to listen? Do I like enjoy listening to it afterwards? Do I want to listen to it again and again and again, kind of thing?
Yes. I go back to Powder's Beats in Space mix all the time. I think because it starts off so beautifully. It starts off with like a kind of, I don't even know what the instrument is, but like it's like a vibraphone, like Peter Jolly, I think the name was, track. And it's just like, it just sets the tone. I think there's like, you could almost talk about like a meal or something like that. It just cleanses the palate, whatever it does. And I just keep going back to it because like it's speaking to me in a certain way and telling me pay attention, as opposed to like, bang, we're in 120 BPM. That's what I guess you mean by story a little bit.
A little bit, but I mean, and I love Powder, so I'm glad you mentioned that one because I do think when she DJs, she is telling a story. Um, but I think it is like there's a few ways like in the mix of telling a story. Yes, there's like a maybe a easy ramp up of the mix, but it's also like with your track selection, like where is it going? Like is it like if there's lyrics in it, maybe there's something in these lyrics that, that it's saying, right? Or maybe it's the story is this person just went to Japan and got all these crazy records that we've never heard. And here's this story, or here's this story of Turkish psych rock records put together, and you're kind of like figuring out this other genre that you don't know. So I think there's different ways of doing it, and that's kind of the fun part of it, and to see how each DJ would do it.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There's, in my mind, if you're a dance music DJ, there's the essential mix. There's, in my opinion, the essential mix, the resident advisor mix. There's beats in space. I think as like you have to do once. Am I wrong?
I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
It's like, okay,
Yeah.
they've done it. Amazing. They've done it type thing to me anyway, from an outsider looking in. Do you feel like, you spoke about London earlier or like UK and pirate radio. I wanted to touch briefly on like DJs and cultures, like especially like RP Boo is so different from Powder. Do you get a sense of culture and DJing and the differences at how it's treated or approached?
Yeah, I mean, and that is a good point, looking at Powder and RP Boo, um and I think for sure this experience on the radio show and listening to their mixes, shows you, uh yeah, culturally there is a difference happening there. And I love, like, RP Boo, like, you're hearing Chicago music, inner city Chicago. This is, and this is a small scene, remember? Like, this isn't like everywhere in Chicago. This footwork scene is small, but it's cool when you think about it, that this comes from Chicago house, right? And then it goes into gets sped up, and it goes into ghetto tech, and then it gets sped up even more, and then it goes, into footwork, right? And then it becomes this, and you're like battling this, but it's still small groups of people doing it. It's cool seeing I think that's fun to find these smaller genres, and to be able to highlight them. And because now I think that was a lot easier back in the day, that you would have okay, this is Baltimore club, and this is Detroit techno, and like this sound coming out of these scenes. Now it's just, everything is definitely way more global. There's still happening, like, a sound in scenes, but it's just like I think a little bit harder to find, but it's still happening. But I think it's fun for me to find those cultural things. Like Beresh Ka, when he was on the radio show, he did that. He did a Turkish like psych funk mix, and for me that was important to document, because it wasn't something I knew a lot about, and I loved it, and I wanted to know more. And like, I'm one of those people, like, when I hear something that I love, like, I just want to eat everything. I want to find, like, every record, and I just want to eat them all up, basically. And so I am like that on different genres, and I just want to go back to the very start and know everything, as much as possible. So for me, like, yeah, getting that document, and having people on the radio show who just know the most about those cultural things. That's what I want on the radio show. Teach me. That is what I
Yeah.
want.
I've been thinking a lot about this recently, actually, about like the people that are able to like contextualize or put, translate or like present culture in different ways that we might not be able to understand if we weren't there. And like, I'm not into history in terms of like, World War II and all that stuff. I've never been interested in that stuff, but I'm really interested in music history and like going back to the source. And you must see that all the time. And that probably is quite a simple, easy segue to like what I wanted to dive in with you, which is, first of all, which is music and history and dance music. First of all, me saying dance music, is that how you describe what you showcase? Like, I feel like it could be electronic music, could be house music. What do you say?
That's a good question. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I say dance. I say, yeah. Usually, I say dance, electronic music. I mean, it's more than that, though. But, I am playing the disco music. I am playing, funk and soul. Like the roots of dance music come into it. So
Nice. Yeah.
you would have, reggae and dub in there too. So and rock and like the, it is so expansive. Is music for people to dance to or not dance to as well. Like I don't care so much. Like it doesn't have to always be that way. But it yeah. So but okay, let's just go with dance music.
Dance music is good. It's almost like pop music or rock music. It's like there's so many
Yeah.
subgenres.
Yeah.
Calling it house music is wrong. If I said like you do a house music show, it's not accurate.
No,
you
yeah,
know?
because there's techno, sometimes, or
Yeah.
yeah, there's different genres that happen. So I do, yeah, dance is a good broader term.
Umbrella term. So
Yeah,
in your 25 years, I'm rounding up,
that's
but we're
yeah,
almost
that's
there.
okay. Yeah,
It
almost
sounds
there.
good. What if I'd love to know what you've seen evolve. Things must have evolved in terms of like obviously the sound of dance music has changed and evolved. I'd love to like know from you, DJing, how that might have evolved. I think we're even seeing that this year. And like, say, for example, you see Frank Ocean pull out and you've got Skrillex Quartet and Fred again on the main stage doing like kind of a sloppy, kind of like almost like UK style, mates set. Like, I feel like obviously it's still, things are still going to always change, but what have you seen? And it's hard to encapsulate in one answer how things have changed, but you must have seen people's approaches change over time to dance music.
Yeah, for sure. I think when I started, it was much smaller, and I think pre this is pre like EDM and everything getting, giant and going like Las Vegas style or whatever. The um when I started, we still had a lot of the classic New York clubs going on. And then those quickly died out like a Twilo, say those died out, and then everything went to like here in New York. What I experienced was everything went to like small bars, and that's what we had this one bar called Plant Bar that was where kind of I met the DFA crew, and we're talking like 50 people would be in there, and um, I would DJ. I would DJ opening set there from like 7 to 10 p.m. But that was kind of like where I met a lot of people, and you saw, I don't know, this is kind of like the melting pot of, Luke from the Rapture was the bartender there, so I would talk to him all the time. Um, and like Chick 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 was there, and you know, kind of you would just go to these little bars, and then things started moving. I'm gonna say in a New York sense, if we're talking about evolution right now, things started moving to Brooklyn, is what I saw, and then things kept moving out from Brooklyn, like into the outer reaches of Brooklyn, to the border with Queens, and you saw bigger clubs starting to open again, and it started to be, um, until now, like I think the club scene now feels bigger than it was when I first started, where it does feel like this circular evolution, if we want to, that we've come full circle, and things are huge again. I mean, just like you're saying with Coachella, but it, it's interesting that I think it was like a tough period for a while where, you know, I always think of New York as these classic clubs, and then they all shut down, and I was like, "Okay, what are we gonna do? Like, this is fun, but this isn't really going anywhere." And, you know, years pass and things start to like, yeah, it's fun now. There's just like so many places to play, and I think um that kind of evolution, in a broader sense, if you take it outside of New York, I guess I've seen over the years, the kind of heart of the music scene change, right? Where, you know, I would say for a while it was New York, then it moves to London, and then it moves to Berlin, and then now I think it moves. Yeah, wow. Now I think it's moving out of Berlin, and finding its new spot. But I think it does seem like it's always on the move a little bit because everyone's trying to find the new spot, like a club. Yes, you can have a club for 20 years or 30 years, like Smart Bar in Chicago, but, everyone at the same time is also looking for the new spot, and that's kinda like, it feels like worldwide, everyone, looking for that new city.
How has Tim Sweeney, the DJ, evolved since he's been a DJ till now, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, my format thing has changed too, because yeah, for sure at the start it was all vinyl, and now I love digital. It does make life easier, but it's a different. It is different when you're DJing. You never turn your back on the crowds now, because you're always facing out. And before you would always like turn around to go pick records. Uh, that was like it's yeah, it's different, but yeah, I for me, I guess I always think like it is about that just finding the best record, finding the best music, and playing it for people. Like as long as you're playing great music and you're having fun, it doesn't matter about like your format or um, how you're doing it. It's like just have a good time and make sure the crowd is having a good time.
How has you've been doing the Apple Music version of Beats in Space for a little while now. Like how has that transition been for you? Is it you were doing it on WNYE for such a long time. Apple is a completely different beast in terms of a company, but obviously Apple Music is still relatively young, even though like doing amazing things. How has that been for you?
Yeah, I mean that change. It was definitely scary at the start because I didn't know how it would go, and obviously I was so used to 20 years of Beats in Space on college radio, where um, like I did everything right. So I was nervous coming in here, and like, and there's like a lot of names here, so it was like uh, it
You're
was
a
kind of
name.
scary. Yeah, well, thank you, I appreciate that. But you got like there's I couldn't learn from people at WNYU, right? Because it was like me and then like an 18-year-old doing their show. So it was it was hard to like push things that way. I mean, you can still learn from someone like there you can find someone who's like really into it, and then you're still pushing things. But I think moving here has been really fun cuz you have these classic radio people like a Zane Lowe or Ebro here in New York or Strombo, who's out in LA but from Canadian radio, that just have like such giant history in radio, and I can just it's fun that I can get in touch with them and ask them questions, and I can, improve things, and I can push things a little bit more. Like all these questions that I have, or like, how do you interview a person like this, or like, how do you approach this situation? Um, like they have done it before, and so I get tips like that, which is like I love it. Um, I think, overall it's a challenge for me here to kind of still. I mean, it's always a challenge, just to keep pushing and, just to have fun each week with it, which I'm still doing. And I'm still booking all the DJs, and I'm still playing all the music I want. So, in that sense, like I have way more freedom than I ever thought I would. And I hope I always have that. I'm like knocking on wood right now that I always have that, because that's what's important for, yeah, I mean, I don't wanna, like, lash out or anything, like, I love having this freedom, and they've really given it to me, so, that's been amazing, and it's been fun to kinda, like, it's like, "Okay, and now I have these, now I'm here at this bigger thing. How can I use this to, like, grow the show, and what can I do to make things, like, get more listeners? What can I How can I do this? Like how can I use each element here to make it better? And that's been fun. And it's like that's gonna take me forever to figure out, like there's just no way I'm gonna figure it out. But it is fun. I feel like every week I do learn something new, and I enjoy that because I don't wanna stay stagnant, and I just wanna keep having fun. I wanna keep learning, and I think I'm still doing that.
That's so wild, man, because like that that kind of energy, a lot of people I spoke to Shervin Linez, a music photographer, last week, and it's that same hunger to learn and to grow and know that nothing is perfect, and that but you want to kind of chase not perfection, but chase that thing that you had when you started the show, is what you're saying exactly now. How do I find more audience? How do I improve? How do I get better? How do I make this a better thing? Which is like so cool to me to see, because you have done it for so long and you've achieved so much. And I've got two last questions for you. One is about that thing that I mentioned at the beginning. Can you recognize? Do you recognize that what you've done is an institution of sorts? Do you think that it's you, it's Tim Sweeney, it's you curating, it's you presenting, it's also documenting, it's also celebrating, it's also like a whole history of music that like when you talk about Ebro, you talk about Zayn, you are amongst those people, and you're talking, I'm talking about Essential Mix and things like that, and it exists as a marker in someone's career. Do you feel that, or is it just like you're a guy DJing doing your thing?
I no, I don't actually, I don't think of it that way. I still just I'm excited when someone will come on. I'm still like, uh, I'm happy about it. I definitely am not thinking like,
This is your
oh, you're
moment.
lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're lucky. Um, well, maybe I would only think that if someone was like an asshole, and then I'd be like,
Yeah.
ah, yeah. But no, for the most part, my thinking, I'm always thinking like I want to keep improving things. I want to keep pushing it, and so I I'm not settled with where I am. Like I can't feel like this is this is it. Like because I think there's something else, right? Like I want to go, I want to keep going. So I don't feel like I've hit where I want to hit, and I'm not gonna just sit and I feel like if you thought that way, like that this is the institute, then then you're boring. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like then you're just like where then you don't change anything, right? And you wouldn't, I mean, and maybe you don't need to change anything, but still you need to you need to I want to push some boundaries, and I want to I think that's how you still have fun with the radio show each week. It's like I don't I don't want to get burnt out, and I haven't gotten burnt out doing the radio show every week, for this long, um, and that's just because I feel like there is always some next thing, here, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's the next interview is gonna be insane, and I'm gonna get that story that is, I've always wanted, or it's gonna be that someone plays this track or I get to play. I mean, probably what I want always is I want to play the track that, blows up, or, I get this edit, or I make this song that everyone once, or there's just so many other things. Or I get this recording, we record at some crazy place on the top of some mountain, or there's always things. And so I'm not settled in thinking like, oh, it's great, yeah, that you're so lucky to come on here. I'm happy that people still want to come on, honestly, that's I'm more happy that it still is relevant.
That's wonderful. And I didn't want to, it definitely wasn't trying to push you to be like, yeah, it is an institution. I am amazing. But I think it's what I ended up getting out of that was like the ego of it, or the lack of the kind of the willingness to want to always provide, and to always grow, and to always create something fresh that is exciting, rather than being self-aware of the presence that now exists with what you do. And it's more about the journey for you than like the brand of Tim Sweeney and the brand of Beats in Space that's bestowing this thing on you. And I think about like John Peel, who like until he passed was still putting on the things before anyone else was aware of it. And you can still look back at that. And it wasn't like, congratulations, I'm John Peel and you're on. It's like, no one cares about this yet, and I care about it. And it feels like there's an element for what you do, which is like, whatever will be, but I want this,
I mean, in my head, when I see things, I'm like, I'm not stopping until I'm dead. So,
Wow.
I will still be doing, I don't care. I can get fired from here, but I'll still be doing this somewhere, in some way, that's how I feel about it. I'm gonna be yeah, I don't know. I'll go to move to Melbourne and be on Triple R. I love Triple R. I'll retire. I'll be retired over there, and then just doing it, as a old man doing this radio show every week, and just playing music and that I love. And for me, that it just gives meaning to life, I guess. I don't know, for me, that's what I find enjoyable.
I think it's cool that you could kind of do it for so long, go to Apple Music and perhaps go to like not saying you need to or will, but like, yeah, go to a community radio station one day in your future and be like, hell yeah, I'm still doing it. Like, I love this, Do you, last question for you is about advice. I know you represent a certain individual in music, and with so much experience in radio and DJing. I guess for the radio broadcaster and for the DJ, what are your words of wisdom, Mr. Sweeney?
I mean, it's generic to say, but it is, it is about having fun with it. In the end, you have to be having fun. If you're not, then just put your effort into something else that you're gonna have more fun with. Obviously, it's not fun all the time, and I stress out every day, for the most part. But I love it, and I've loved it since I was 14 or whatever. And I think I do go back to that feeling that I had when I first started. And I was like, cut class to go play on college radio, and that feeling that brought, and that kind of like excitement, and the there's that idea that anyone can be listening at any point, so you have to bring it. Always bring your best. You don't know who could be listening. So I think for me, um it is always about trying to have fun, and you know don't 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 make the show boring. You have to have like something that you make it interesting. So that is, yeah, what can you do, what's the next thing so that you don't get bored with the radio show. um and I think for me, this challenge here is, I've started to doing longer interviews with people, and that's been a challenge because before I did really quick interviews with artists. Some some interviews were longer than others, but for the most part, I did really quick interviews. And now I'm kind of doing like sit down interviews with people, and that's been fun for me. So it's kind of like, you know, evolving and kind of figuring things out, and how do I get better at this, and um that's I'm still having fun with it, like, and finding a new way to have fun with it. And um like, it is something, I hope other people like who are getting into radio, or DJing, just keep that passion. Just try not to get burnt out. Try not to uh, go crazy.
I think that it's a really, really beautiful thing to hear from you. That it's, I think the thing I love about radio is that you never know, like you said, you never know who's listening. And I'm sure you've impacted a lot of people that have come up to you and told you, but a lot of people, like I told you before we went on air, I've always listened to Beats in Space, but I've never commented anywhere. I've never interacted in any way besides press play. But I've always listened, and there's so many of us out there, and that's important for any radio broadcaster or even for any DJ. But I'd say, like, I don't know, on behalf of somebody, myself maybe even, thank you for what you do. I don't want to speak for everybody, but thank you for what you do. And the play count means something. I think that you might not get a comment from everyone, but that, like, people know and trust it, and that comes with a lot of time and dedication to your craft and that enjoyment. So Tim Sweeney, thank you so much for joining me. Tim Sweeney speaks volumes, as we should say at this point, and I really appreciate you being part of this.
Derrick, thank you for having me, and it's great to be a part of it, and I'm loving what you do, and it is inspiring also to see what you're doing. And that, like, just watching that is something that, I am seeing that, I see you, I see what's going on, and that is cool. So it's fun, I'm happy to be here, and yeah, just thank you, Derrick.
Thank you, Tim. Everyone listen to Beats in Space. You already do anyway. Even if you don't think you do, you do. Everyone does. My wife, like, I told her, she's like, oh my gosh, like, she listens to it so much, but we've never spoken about it, ever. That's
Really?
the thing about, yeah. It's like, we've never spoken about Beats in Space, but obviously you come across it if you love music. Beats in Space is part of your life in some way. Tim Sweeney, thank you so much. And bye for everyone else. Thank you for listening.